all pretty sweet. Recording's going. I am so excited and delighted today to have Jennifer here with us, a state attorney extraordinaire. Um, I couldn't figure out how to do a trust, and you figured out how I could get it done and got us through the process. So always greatly appreciative of that, Jennifer.
Of
Thank
course.
you,
Thanks
thank you.
for having me.
Great. And you are our person to kind of, you've been super busy over the last couple of weeks because lots of clients have been kind of contacting you in regards to Proposition 19.
Yes.
And there are, and there's going to be, I think, from what I've learned in kind of a little bit about this, there seems to be two kind of process. There's the real estate side of Proposition 19, and then there's the estate planning side of Proposition 19. So maybe we'll divide those up into two topics and kind of maybe get on to the estate planning side of it first, because I think you have a lot of people who are like, what does this mean? What are we going to do? And all of that kind of stuff. So
Certainly.
maybe,
And, I'm happy to discuss it with you. It feels like all I've been discussing over the past month. Um, there are some pros and cons of Prop 19. And the pros, like you said, are kind of dealing with real estate transactions, but they do help a lot of people. And we'll get to that in a minute. I just want to briefly talk about what some may consider a con of Prop 19, which essentially deals with property taxes and the ability for parents to pass their the rate that they pay their property tax on to their children and or grandchildren in certain circumstances. If you have a predeceased parent and or a child and then they have children, the grandchild can take your property tax basis, which is huge in California. Not any other states that I know of had that, where essentially it was a big benefit to the beneficiaries, to children and grandchildren who were the recipients of this, because they could take their parents or their grandparents' property tax basis, which may have been, from 1976 when they purchased the house at 150,000, and we're paying 1,500 a year in property taxes increased
mhm,
for inflation. But basically, Prop 13 was where this all started. Prop 13 is kind of the basis of where Prop 19 is stemming off of. And Prop 13 said that, it said that the property taxes cannot be paid on anything more than 1% of the fair market value of the property at the time of purchase.
mhm.
And it could only increase for inflation every year with a max increase at 2%. So properties have increased over the past 40 years at more than 2%, which is why people are paying who purchased the property a lot. Many years ago are paying property taxes at such a low rate. So
Yeah,
that's the benefit. The benefit is that you can take
they call that, isn't that everybody? A lot of people refer to that as the parent-child benefit, right?
the parent-child exclusion or the
The
parent-grandchild
parent-child,
exclusion.
parent-grandchild
And
exclusion.
so Prop 13 set the property tax basis at what it was. And then Prop 58 and Prop 193 allowed for the parent-child exclusion and the parent-grandchild exclusion. And that basically said that if you qualified, if you were the child of the transferor, you could basically take their property tax basis and pay at the rate that they were paying, even though the fair market value at the house at the time that you inherited it at or the time that it was gifted to you at was significantly more. So that's why people in neighborhoods, one neighbor could be paying property taxes at a house value
High,
of 200,
yeah, 2 million.
250,000, and then the
Mm-hmm.
other one be paying it at
2 million.
1,000,000, 2,000,000,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Which
Mm-hmm.
a $2 million property at 1% is 20,000, right,
Mm-hmm.
per year versus the 1,500, 2,000 that somebody else might be paying.
Yeah.
So it is significantly different. So that's the parent-child exclusion. Prop 19 does away with it. It does away with it. It's effective as of February 16th, 2021. So a lot of people are calling me right now trying to figure out if they're going to either gift the property to their children prior to that February 16th deadline so that they can keep the property tax basis. And
Mm-hmm.
there are pros and cons to that I have to discuss with clients too, because if you gift property, and I don't want to get too into this,
Mm-hmm.
you can call me and we can discuss if you think that that's an issue, because when you gift property during life, um, the recipient takes a carryover basis in the property, and so if they sell it, there might have a huge capital gains tax. So
And I think to jump in from my experience in on the selling end, I think the one of the greatest benefits I see children getting from inherited family real estate is this concept of the stepped up cost basis, where, okay, mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or grandma and grandma or whoever it may have been purchased this property at $100,000 and today we're selling it at $1 million. They basically inherit it at today's value. So when they sell it, they are basically not making any gain, and that money is tax free. Um,
correct.
so that's kind of huge. Whereas you could be giving up that opportunity if you're gifting the property, because the property is the property gifted at the value at which it is taxed. Is that how it's?
Not at the
Uh,
value that it's taxed, but at the parent's basis in the property, so the adjusted basis, so their purchase price plus improvements. And so that's the carryover basis that you get, and then if you sell it, you pay capital gains tax. There are some loopholes there if the
they would have to
situation.
talk to you more directly for
Yeah,
that kind of scenario.
exactly. But
Yeah.
what's so great for you and for a lot of clients that are 55 and older is that there are some benefits to Prop 19. The reason why I like to sometimes talk about the benefits before the negative aspects of it, the loss of the parent-child exclusion, is because the loss of the parent-child exclusion was to basically pay for the benefits of it, which help a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
Which, if we're moving to that now, that's where people 55 and older, um, disabled individuals and or people who've suffered from a natural disaster can basically take their property tax basis with them
Hmm.
and move to a different county in California and pay the same property taxes, which previously they weren't able to do.
Which
Or
is incredible. And the benefits previously, it was very, there was a possibility for us to do this stuff through Prop 60 and Prop 90, but they were very limited. Prop 60 was within our county, so San Francisco to San Francisco spot. And then Sean is just our lender is joining us here. Hey, Sean. And then Prop 90 was where there was some reciprocating counties, like,
and
yeah, and they change from years to year. Like there was Ventura County would reciprocate with San Francisco. That was one of who wants to go to, not against Ventura County, but I was like,
I'm going to keep my
so
mouth shut.
yeah, it was random on where you could go. But the hardest thing that we always found with that was you had to purchase at what you sold at or less. And
Correct.
that would be problematic for, especially in San Francisco, if we had like, grandma needs to move into an elevator building. These are in shishi kind of neighborhoods, these fancy condo buildings. So, the price on them is quite high, and they might have a single family home in a neighborhood that's not as well known in San Francisco and the values are high, but you sell it for $1 million, then you move into downtown San Francisco and it gets a little bit harder to find the right place for grandma to fit into that price point. That exclusion is gone now, right? That
Correct. So
price
Prop
restriction.
19 basically expanded on Prop 60 and Prop 90, and it allows um, those three categories of individuals. If you qualify 55 and older, disabled, or has suffered from a natural disaster, fire victims, Um, Ultimately, what can happen is you can take the property tax basis 3 times and transfer it, and it can be to
Amazing.
any county in California, and it doesn't have to be of equal or lesser value. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't pay, an property tax on the difference in value, right? So for example, if you bought a $3 million property, but your property is worth $1 million, your $1 million, for $1 million of that $3 million, you take your property tax basis, and then you pay property tax on the $2 million, the increase in
So
value,
you
or
will
the,
you will get an increase on the extra value that you're taking. That's fair.
but it's still a,
Um,
it's still a benefit.
yeah, still a benefit. But the amazing thing with the 3 times, so if I turn, like, say, I end up in a natural disaster, there's a fire, God forbid, and uh, in the hills there, and a bunch of homes get lost, you can move your tax basis to somewhere else. But for an easy example, let's say at 55 we qualify, we could sell our house and move from San Francisco and take a tax basis that we've had for 20 or 30 years and go to San Diego.
Yep.
And then at 65, I could be like, hey, I'm done with San Diego, and sell in San Diego and move to San Luis Obispo. And at 75, I could be like, hey, I'm done with San Luis Obispo. I want to go back to San Francisco.
Yes, but then
Um,
you're done after that.
and then I'm
You
done.
can't move, then you
I'm
can't move
75.
anymore.
I'm 75 at that point. I think I'm going to be done.
You better
I,
like that last place.
Exactly. As a friend of mine said to me there recently, he was like, "When I reach that age and real estate deals come into play, take my checkbook away." So,
Yeah.
that,
So yeah, so this is a huge benefit for some. It causes some problems for others. It was promoted as it was mainly promoted as a benefit. Saying that it was helping elderly people 55 and older, which uh, is not elderly, I don't think,
yes,
but
not
55 and
fully.
older,
Yeah.
and disabled individuals and people who suffer from natural disasters. And it is huge, and it allows for a lot more flexibility and mobility within California for people who have low property tax bases. Because honestly, people do feel stuck in certain situations
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
they have a home with stairs or a larger home that they don't really want to upkeep anymore. They want to move closer to children.
Hmm.
But their property tax basis is so low that even buying a house that's worth a third of the value would be
Hmm.
more expensive for them.
Hmm.
And so in order to pay for that, then we lost the parent-child exclusion.
Yeah. So, well, and the benefit on, yeah, a lot of people who were against this proposition, the the argument was it was a tax break for the rich, and I kind of disagree with that. Obviously, being a supporter of it, I kind of the when you get somebody who is stuck in a school district where they're in their 70s or their 80s, and they're in a big house, but because they're on a fixed income, they can't change anything up and they can't move. So you have a low paying property tax individual. So there's no money going into your school district. There's no money going to your police department. There's no money going to your fire department. And if you are able to get that person to move into a city like, a high-rise building in San Francisco where they have elevators and that kind of stuff, because they're able to move that tax basis, and you open up that piece of property, you're the increase in taxes and that movement is actually just increases the tax base and gives cities and counties greater ability to be able to fund things that are actually becoming, with the pandemic now, even more difficult to
Mhm.
fund. So
And I
yeah,
should say, just to put a disclaimer on it, the parent-child exclusion is not completely lost. There is for
mhm,
primary residence, if a child moves in to the residence within 1 year from the transfer, you get $1 million exclusion still. So
yeah,
it's not for nothing.
it's not fair. And but if somebody inherits a property after, because there is an April 1 deadline too, or commencement date on prop. What is the April 1st commencement date on prop
19.
19. Yeah.
So there's two commencement dates or effective dates. Of the transfer of property tax basis for those three categories is effective as of April 1st, 2021. So if you're planning on selling property, you may not want to do that until after April 1st,
April 1st.
so that you can take your property tax basis with you to if you're staying within California, to wherever you relocate to. And then the February 16th, 2021 date that I talked about was for the loss of the parent-child and grandchild exclusion for rental and commercial properties and vacation properties, as well as for primary residents over $1 million of it.
So if we were inheriting a property and it happens in the summer of next year, and we're going to rent it out, the city will turn around and reassess it to the value at time of death? Is that
at time of death? Yes. So it's fair market value as of time of death, and the assessor will reassess the property, only 1% of that value, for any rental property. You don't get that $1 million exemption if you don't move in to the primary residence within a year and claim homeowner's exemption or the veteran's exemption. Then you've just completely lost the property tax basis, and it will be reassessed.
Okay, perfect. So, well, that's kind of that's it in a nutshell. Hayley, any questions that kind of come up in your thought process, or Sean, anything that you have to ask?
Not me particularly, because, you know, a lot of, I mean, this is really great, interesting information. And a lot of our buyers are kind of like first-time home buyers. So we're kind of on the front end of this, but it's really good for them to understand how it works now. But of course, we do have a lot of multi-generational families living in homes. So this is really important stuff to know.
Yeah, I think the deadlines are the important thing, right? So if you're concerned about the parent-child exclusion or parent-grandchild exclusion, just talk to your advisor, because there's things you can do, but it may not be right for you anyways, to do anything. So that's it. And then for knowing if you're planning on selling the house and you have a good property tax basis or a low property tax basis and you're planning on moving, that April 1st deadline is what's really important to know.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think that will open up a lot of inventory for first-time home buyers as we get into the summer, because the opportunity for the pent-up demand, so to speak, in Prop 19, that, you know, you're probably not going to get a bunch of 55, 56-year-olds rushing out to avail of it straight off the bat, but you are going to see this summer probably many people in their 80s who are going to turn around and say, like, this is my opportunity now to move closer to grandkids or move closer to family, or do something along those lines. So
don't plan any vacations, Eddie. For the summer.
Yes, exactly. I'm hunkering down in my little bunker here. Interestingly enough, that makes me think of a quick question for you, Sean, in regards to underwriting. The way you use the cost of property taxes, PITI, in underwriting a client. If you have somebody making a purchase, bringing a much cheaper property tax to the property, do you think the lenders will take that into account, or they'll still underwrite them at what the market
they'll underwrite it as long as you can document all of it. You can underwrite to what the actual tax base will be. That's really what we try to do more often. Is the traditional method is qualify at 1.25%, but like Oakland, it ends up being like 1.386%, so it's higher. So if you qualify at 1.25, you've underqualified, and we do that just by documenting the tax bill. So we have to document the tax base, the Prop 19, that this is doable, and then it's totally fine.
Okay.
Perfect. So yeah, that'll work. And that's what I'm really curious to see is, does this create more inventory? You know, because I think so many people are sitting on so much equity that I've heard people are scared to, I'm not going to sell because I don't want to give the money to the government. I'm curious to see if just the other side of it is, I would love to sell, but these property taxes would be insane. So I'm really curious to see what this does for us next summer.
Yeah. It's as Jennifer says, we're all going to be here on the edge of our seats. Nobody's going to be on vacation. We're all going to be here, waiting. The walking frames to go by the office door. So perfect. Well, I think that kind of covers it in a nutshell. In a lot of ways, if we're looking for you, Jennifer, and we want assistance, and somebody is either interested in putting together a trust or needs advice on this before February or before April, how do we find you?
So all my contact information is on my website, and it's just my name.com. So www.jenniferjaynes.com.
Beautiful. That makes you easy to find. And then what at this kind of portion of the call, we always like to just jump in to do a bit of the numbers of what's going on in real estate for the week. So what have we got going on, Hayley, in regards to our numbers this week? So you're on mute, Hayley.
Yep, I did that.
Yeah.
Definitely
are we becoming like the progressive advertisement?
I never wanted to be that person. Now I've done it. There's been quite a drop in inventory coming on. So active single families this week, new 26. So wow. Pretty low. Yeah. We were averaging like 60 for a while there. So significant drop. Condos and TICs and lofts, 48 new, and multi-unit, 2 to 4 unit and mixed, 17 new. 66 homes went into contract or went pending. So, we're headed into a tight space here. 99 condos and TICs went into contract or went pending. And 2 to 4 units, that's 18.
Wow. So the condo number for going into contract has steadily gone up every week, which is a great sign to see. Okay.
And almost spot on single families, 60 closed, and condos 65 closed, and multi-unit 3.
Mm-hmm. Sean, on the lending world, anything we need to be aware of? Anything new or anything changing?
Things are opening up a little bit more. It's just to hear the numbers, even being the time of year it is, it's insane how busy it still is and how many people are making offers and how people pretend that holidays don't exist with their dates of timing. So take those into consideration, I would say, if you're going to make an offer right before Christmas and New Year's.
We can't close on Christmas Day? Come on, Sean.
We could. No, and so the things that are coming up.
I don't do anything that day.
Yeah. No, I'm just noticing more chaos right now. It's really interesting. I think from when COVID began, because we're kind of right back where we started in the beginning, right, with them closing restaurants and everything again. The chaos 8 months later is worse than it was in the beginning. Alameda County is behind on their recordings right now because they had a COVID. I don't want to say outbreak, but COVID case, and it kind of messed up the timing for recording. So that's been a unknown delay. It could take a day, it could take 3. One of the big things I would encourage buyers to do is if you're liquidating stock, do that earlier than expected. I've had that cause a couple delays in the last few weeks on a few transactions. And I'm wondering, anytime I have little issues come up, it's like, what did I communicate wrong? What went wrong here? I'm wondering if people are the stock market's doing so well that people are holding out as long as they can to make as much money as they can before they liquidate. And if the funds don't get to escrow in time, well, we have to have proof of liquidation before we can send your loan documents to escrow. So I'm just having that create little delays. So those are really the big things I've seen lately. Loan limits have increased. In our Bay Area counties, conventional loan limits are now 822, 375. which is a pretty significant increase. That's
Oh, wow.
about a $55,000 jump from what the 2020 limits are, and they're effective now. So you can get into contract using those right now. Equity lines are opening up a little bit more. They're allowing lower credit scores now. They have lower margins. So things are improving as we go as well. So it's we're getting better and better. Programs aren't going away, but there's a lot of good things happening. But that would be my biggest note is if you're liquidating stock, do it sooner than you want to, maybe, just because we have to have the money, and I'm sorry, you're going to miss a couple dollars in the market.
Yeah. Good advice. And then rates are holding where they're
In the
at.
twos. Yeah, rates, jumbo 30-year fixed, the conventional 30-year fixed, everything's in the twos. They've stayed the same. They have not changed. I do expect when the vaccine comes out, we'll see rates go up a quarter. We got a little hint of that about a month ago when Pfizer did their announcement, and then it didn't turn out as good, but we at least got a glimpse of what's to come. So I do think we'll see an interest rate increase of about 0.25% once the vaccine is realized, if not more. That's really the biggest thing I'm keeping an eye on for my clients is let's get ahead of that. Basically, I have my hand on the rate lock button ahead of that just in case. So.
Wow. And if we're looking for you, Sean, and it's dark and we can't find you, how do we find you?
Google Sean Herrero, go to seanherrero.com, Adventure Lender on Instagram. Although I haven't been as active on Instagram. I'm taking a little social media break right now, but I'm all over the internet.
Good. All right, good. And Hayley, anybody looking for us in the dark, where's the light switch?
Elevation SF on Instagram and elevationrealestate.com.
Awesome. Jennifer, you were awesome. And thank you for coming on board to kind of answer those questions for us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
That wasn't the only one, Jennifer.
All right.
Awesome. Hey,
thanks, guys.
We'll have a great week, and thank you. Cheers.
All right, bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.